Wrestling Audio Revolution presents The Run-In Show with your hosts, Commissioner Shan Cunningham and Shotgun Shan.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Run-In Show. We've been gone for a while. We're kind of like that old friend you haven't seen in a while, and you run into them at the grocery store, and you're like, how are you, buddy? Well, you know how we are? We're doing great. And we're going to get into that in just 1 second. But who I have to bring out right now is, of course, my better half, my co-host, the man who I consider to be the most respected man in wrestling journalism and the hardest working man in show business. Ladies and gentlemen, let me bring to you right now the Commissioner, Shan Cunningham. Hey, Sean, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you, sir?
It's just so good to be back here on the show working together again. It's been too long.
Way too long, and it's been a busy time, not just for us, but more so in the world of wrestling. It's been wow.
Yeah, exactly. It feels almost like the landscape of wrestling has changed. Folks, if you're just joining us, for the first time or you've been gone for a while, our last show was just prior to WrestleMania, and we'd done our WrestleMania predictions. We were ready to go on with some new programming, and then disaster struck. Now, I don't know if we've ever talked about this before, but shortly after Donald Trump became president of the U.S., Sean moved underground into an emergency bunker. I know it sounds funny, but it's true, and I don't blame him. He had the means, so he moved into his bunker. That would have been fine. We were able to do the show. Unfortunately, they were doing construction next to Sean's house, and they actually buried him alive. It was a terrible situation. God love him. He kept trying to do the show anyway, but we just couldn't get through. So we got Sean dug out and dealt with all the fallout from that. And then the next part of this problem was my fault. I picked the wrong time to get a nose job. And the doctor didn't tell me that I was not going to be able to talk properly. So that cost us another few weeks. So my own vanity, as well as an act of God, has put the show in jeopardy. But folks, we are back. We are back for this episode, which is our season finale. That's right, the end of season 1 of the Run-In Show. It's just flown by, hasn't it, Sean?
It's flown by, and everything around us is going quicker than we can even keep track of it at the best of times.
Absolutely. So much has changed. Sean, I'm just going to jump right into the news bag. I know we were talking about this before, and we said so much has changed, we can't really go and do a recap of everything that's gone on.
Oh, no, way too much.
But there have been, we're going to hit on some of the developments here that I think are really significant. Number one being that Brock Lesnar is once again the Universal Champion. Well, I guess not once again. It's the first time he's been Universal Champion, but still, he's your champion. Now, I think the one thing that we won't have trouble recapping is how many times Brock Lesnar has fought since he's been champion at WrestleMania. Which is, how many times, Sean?
That'd be 0. That'd be none.
That would be 0. We're back in Brock territory again. Yeah. What's your feeling on this, Sean, about having an ICT champion?
I hate it. I've hated it. I hated it the first time they did it. I hate it now because I always compare it to, and this is us being a little bit old farts for a minute, you compare it to Hogan in the 80s. Hogan never wrestled on TV. I emphasize the word wrestled on TV, or had a match on TV. The thing is, Hogan did promo after promo after promo after promo all the time. You knew he was still part of it, even if he never had a match on TV, never had a squash match, anything like that. And I'm not suggesting that Brock needs to go out and have 25 squash matches, but you need to give him some presence on TV.
The thing is, and I'll be honest with you, there were several times watching the programming over the past few weeks that I actually forgot Brock was the champion. I literally forgot. I was like, oh yeah, who's the champion again? Well, it's Brock Lesnar. And it's an honest mistake because I never see it.
Well, the thing is, they never mention it. They only mentioned it going into, Extreme Rules because they had to have a number 1 contenders match because their original plan got delayed and fell apart.
How weird is it to be going through actual pay-per-view events with not only not a defense by the champion, but not even really any mention of the champion. Not even the champion being there. What a strange feeling that is.
Well, I don't understand why you're going to do it other than the fact you've got too many pay-per-view events, but that's a whole other discussion, too.
Yeah. I mean, I wasn't surprised that he beat Goldberg at WrestleMania, and for what it was, that match they did the best they could. But I am surprised that we're back on this path again. It looks like Brock's going to hold it till at least SummerSlam, although he does have a match coming up with Samoa Joe, which would be a classic match if I didn't have to mention that it was at a pay-per-view called Great Balls of Fire. Does anything have Vince written on it more than a pay-per-view called Great Balls of Fire?
No, because you can't say it with a straight face either.
The funny thing is, too, it's like, can you imagine him pitching this in the back, talking to people? You know what we'll do? We'll name this pay-per-view after a 1950s song. Everyone will love it.
Okay, but at least they had the decency to get the rights to use the song for like 3 months.
I kind of wonder if they already had somehow gotten the rights to use the song for something else, had the rights, and then decided they needed to use it for something, and then
before they expired.
Have we seen any indication that there will literally be Great Balls of Fire at the show?
No,
there's not a Great Balls of Fire match, is there?
No.
I'm hoping that this doesn't mean someone's going to have their testicles set alight, but...
Well, no, but here's the thing. You have a show called Great Balls of Fire, and it's not sponsored by, like, a product for Jock Itch or something. Like,
that would be the best, wouldn't it? Oh,
like, you know that WWE missed an advertising opportunity like you wouldn't believe. But the one thing I will say, outside of not being able to say the name of the event without laughing, the idea that Brock Lesnar is facing Samoa Joe in what will be a straight-up fight makes me at least want to watch that match.
What do you think is going to happen with Joe?
From everything I've read and heard, they're very happy with Joe, but the way this has been laid out to me is it's not going to be a one-off thing, number one. And number two, you never know what they want to do with Brock because they can't decide because they can't get him to show up for work.
Yeah, this is true.
Whatever weird layout his deal has, and I admittedly, I don't know what it is, but he's never there. I don't completely believe that he has the same draw that he was 2 years ago when he came back.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that even the fact that he's been away, that he shows up as sporadically as he does, I kind of feel like the novelty's worn off. And so, I don't know. I mean, let's see what they can do. Brock can still go in the ring. I think this match will be good. But it'll be awesome. Yeah, I am kind of rolling my eyes a bit at the fact that Brock's probably going to keep it for a while. I know we talked about the fact that they were pushing for Braun Strowman down the road, and we'll get to that in a minute. I don't know how that's been derailed. I know there's been a lot of rumblings about how Roman Reigns will be fighting Brock at SummerSlam, but they've almost telegraphed that to the point that I hope it changes. But I guess we get here, if we're going to look on the bright side of it, Sean, we get to see Joe and Brock.
Yeah, that's what I'm taking as a positive from this.
Let's take that as a positive and see where it goes. Another thing that's happened recently that's made me very positive and very happy was the return of Kurt Angle.
Yes, the general manager of Raw, as brought in by Vince McMahon the night after WrestleMania, I believe. Trying to jog my memory here, admittedly.
So good to see him again. So good to see him.
And there's talk of him wrestling one or two more times, too, floating around.
I'd heard that, too, although one of the names they were floating by didn't make me very happy. Do you know which name that was?
I believe there's 3 letters that are the same.
That's exactly right. Why in the hell would you bring Kurt Angle back and throw him in with a guy that he fought a million times before, and that's an older wrestler now too in Triple H? I don't really want to see that.
I don't see the cachet in it for the fan of our age who grew up in Attitude Era. I don't see a draw for it in the sense of the younger fan that's watching now.
I think really when you bring a legend back, you owe it to yourself to put him in with some of your top guys, top young guys, because it benefits everybody. It's a great showcase for the veteran and the young guy. It gives them some exposure, and they can learn something. I really think it's silly if they're going to go with Triple H, but any rumblings on what the other names
there's been a tease on TV, and that was Joe. That match was done in another promotion several times. It will still be good because WWE fans have never seen it. And the other name I've heard that Angle wants, and I'm very excited if this ever comes to fruition, is Finn Balor.
I mean, I really hope whatever they do with him, that they're very wise about it. Let's not forget that Kurt Angle, as fantastic as he looks, has survived through how many broken necks now?
At least 2.
Yeah, at least 2. anything you're going to get out of him, you should consider that.
Well, and you got to think he's not a young guy.
And the other thing too is that Kurt has the kind of style. I don't think he's going to abandon his style. He's super physical, and I really hope whatever they do, they're careful.
Yeah, I can't see them doing something crazy. Like I think of, I saw a video clip recently of something, the infamous match with Shane where he threw Shane through the plate glass at King of the Ring, I think in 2001 or 2.
Exactly, and you know what the thing is, Sean? When I watched the replay on that, it really hit me how much I've matured as a human being, because at the time I thought that was awesome.
Yeah.
And looking back now, I'm like, oh my God, that's horrific. He could have died.
Well, no, yeah, 2001 we watched it and went, this is so amazing. We watch it now in 2017 go, oh, it hurts.
Yeah. You grip the back of your neck and you're like, oh my God. Now, how many times did Shane get thrown against that and land on his head before it finally...
I think it was 3. I think you're right.
You know what the funny thing is? I saw the other day they're selling a Shane McMahon action figure in the outfit he wore on that night, and it comes with a breakaway panel of that glass thing.
You're kidding me.
So you can actually reenact that. No, I saw it the other day.
Oh my God.
I thought that's the selling point of that match, was that the damn thing didn't break.
And that's the same. And whenever you see that video clip and they talk, that's the one clip they show.
So so I mean that match obviously is a classic, and it's funny that Shane McMahon, not being much of a wrestler, really did wrestle in a few classic matches during those times of his career. But yeah, I mean what we're getting back to here, we're talking about Kurt Angle.
Putting him in there with Triple H is just retreading old stuff, and I don't know how good or bad the match would be.
Like having Kurt Angle come back for one really big match and then seeing how it goes, I'd be okay with that. But if they're going to start booking him in multiple matches over the next couple of years, that would get me a little bit concerned. Let's hope that he does all right. And the next topic I wanted to talk about here kind of ties into that, because we haven't spoken since The Undertaker supposedly, air quotes, retired. I'm hoping he's retired. I've heard rumblings that maybe he's not. What do you think about that?
I gotta hope he's retired too. Some of the stuff I saw at the end of that match with Roman makes me think he can't. I understand that, and I loved The Undertaker. I just don't believe physically he can do it anymore. And I hate to say that.
And I don't believe physically that he should do it anymore. He shouldn't have to anymore. There comes a point where, you've done enough, and certainly if anybody in the history of WWE has done enough, it's The Undertaker. I mean, there's nothing left for him to do.
And I hate to be the negative about Taker, because we grew up at that time. I can go through the whole career and I've saw it all as far as WWE is concerned. And to watch him almost trip over his own feet at the end just makes me so sad.
Yeah, and the thing that went through my mind too is that I was worried because it reminded me of the Brock match, when Taker was out of it. Another guy we got to talk about, Sean, and this is big news for us just based on our history, is Shinsuke Nakamura is now on the main roster. What do you think about what they've done with Shinsuke so far?
I got scared at first. And I'm going to say this, the only good thing that came out of Money in the Bank, because there wasn't much, was that moment where AJ and Nakamura put the ladder aside and just went. And the crowd went crazy.
You feel like they were testing the waters with that?
Absolutely.
I think they wanted to see who remembered, who was really tied into the history between these two guys. When I look at what's going on with Nakamura now, I'm fine with it. I think they're building him slow. They certainly make him seem special, and I think the audience is reacting to it. I don't know what their long-term plans are. The fact that he's on SmackDown, I think in a lot of ways it's going to be good for him, because you don't have a Brock over there. You don't have some of those other guys that are already kind of in the top mix. You don't have a Seth. You don't have a Roman. So I think he can move his way up. And I think, the characterization is coming along. I don't know what their plans are for him.
Well, no, but that unfortunately goes into the other thing about I'm not sure they know what their plans are 4 months down the road, period.
I would love to see him do something with AJ, but now AJ's a face, so I don't know, maybe they're going to draw that out too.
I think they can draw it out, and I think you can probably get it done for Survivor Series or WrestleMania. I think that's the idea.
I would love to see that. Another guy I want to talk about, I never thought we'd be talking about this guy on our show, is Jinder Mahal. Now, what do we say about Jinder at this point? It's kind of a weird situation. Is he the Maharaja? Is he a monster jobber? I mean, I'm happy for him. Don't get me wrong. I'm happy for him, not just because he's a fellow Canadian, but because I think I'd like to see somebody get an opportunity when it looked like they were doomed to be on the undercard for life, and do the most of it. And I think he's done a fine job. But I just still scratch my head. What are your feelings on Jinder Mahal, Sean?
Well, originally I thought this was a business decision based on WWE's desire to grow internationally. And I always heard initially that the Jinder Mahal push was tied to their desperate interest to grow their market in India, and that's why they've done what they've done.
And you don't think that's the case now?
I'm not sure, because I originally thought they had a tour of India scheduled like very soon after he won, and now I've lost track as to when that was supposed to be. And we're now 2 months in or a month and a half into Jinder Mahal, and they don't look like they're going to go away from it. Or so I think.
Well, you know what? I'd say if the options are Jinder Mahal or Randy Orton, I'm fine with Jinder.
Oh, no, I am too. I'm not saying that. I think Jinder needs to be booked a little better. That aside, and I think you need a more charismatic babyface than Randy Orton.
That really, I think, is going to be the test for Jinder, is when they put him in with somebody who's a really strong babyface. Because right now, I still don't understand why Randy Orton is a face. And he's really such a bland character. So I really would like to see him in against, some of the bigger faces on SmackDown. And they have quite a few of them. Where do you think Jinder Mahal is, let's say, Survivor Series?
Unfortunately, I hate to say this, assuming that stuff happens in WWE the way we think stuff usually happens, Jinder Mahal is probably back doing jobs and not even on Survivor Series, unfortunately, which I think is a mistake, because not that I think Jinder's the greatest option, but at least Jinder Mahal was something different.
Yeah. I mean, I don't expect he's going to still be champion, but I hope he's still in the mix, because I think having somebody different like that, and also that's such a nice surprise for the crowd when you see a guy rise and you keep thinking, oh, he's only going to go so far. This guy's a jobber. And then eventually he's the champion. I mean, I think that it shakes things up enough and it stimulates people's imagination in a way that hasn't been stimulated lately. So I'm cool with Jinder sticking around for a while in the top mix.
Oh, no, I am too. Like I said, because it's not the obvious group of 8 or 10 guys.
I always like when they change that top group of guys. So I'm good with it. Here's something, Sean, that I'm not as good with. I would say even just around WrestleMania, last time we did our show, I was really feeling like the women's divisions were pretty strong. When I look at it now, I'm feeling a little less enthusiastic about what's going on. And that's not because of the champions that they've chosen, because I think Alexa Bliss is a star. I think Alexa Bliss is doing a fine job. I feel like Naomi is certainly getting her time, but it feels like the rosters have gotten a little bit weak, or perhaps things have just gotten diluted or muddy in the women's divisions. The bloom is off the rose for Bayley, unfortunately. I don't know if they've lost kind of faith in what they were doing with Bayley, or they just figure she's better chasing that title.
The bloom is off the rose with Bayley. I think because the Bayley character worked in NXT in a small environment. I don't believe that character works in 2017 on the big stage. The happy-go-lucky, hugging, love you character that Bayley is, I just don't believe really works on that grandiose stage of Monday Night Raw.
It certainly didn't work in the what was that pole match?
The kendo stick on a pole match, and they tried to make a story out of that, and I didn't mind the story until they rushed it.
They rushed it, and then having Bayley just be like, "Yeah, sorry, Bayley's not hardcore enough to do this," and then kind of leaving it at that. I was a little bit disappointed. And
Bayley's now not been seen really since, and I was like, okay, are you gonna do what I think you should do? Do you have the guts? Yeah. They might right now.
They might, and I mean, she's sort of going through what Sasha went through, where Sasha just kind of disappeared and they had nothing for her. So let's hope they get that back together. So what do you think about the Charlotte Face situation?
The Charlotte Face thing doesn't bother me because Charlotte as a character is going to get cheered or booed regardless. Charlotte has to work so hard at getting the reaction that WWE wants her because she's so talented. And it's something that not a lot of guys need to learn, but Charlotte unfortunately does, as to how to manipulate a crowd, because she's just so talented, people are going to cheer or boo anyway. And I'm sorry, they got smart and they added the last name Flair onto her, which they should have done from the beginning anyway.
Exactly. When you've got somebody with a lineage like that, you don't hide it.
No. And I understand why she wanted to for a while. I get it. I really do. But the company got smart and they put the last name on her finally, and she's going to get cheered or booed regardless. It really just depends what town they're in. So I don't know whether it's a luxury or a curse, though, because all she really has to do is go out there and wrestle awesome matches, which she does.
That's true. And really says all she needs to say in the ring anyway. So the Money in the Bank women's match, I was really into until the finish, and obviously the finish was done to be controversial, and they've already addressed that. But it did seem like kind of an odd choice to have Ellsworth be the guy who climbs up and gets the briefcase and give it to Carmella just so they can do another Money in the Bank match on live TV. Do you think that was really the plan, Sean, or what do you think's going on there?
I don't think that was... Okay, I think there was a lot of plans. And one thing I think that's going on with WWE is I think there's change and there's a lot of indecision, but I think that's a bigger picture. They're really debating a major change coming that may or may not be good, and I'll get to that when we get to the end of the newsreel here. I think what they did is, I think if you have a second ladder match, you're hoping to pump a rating.
Yeah, well, maybe that's all it is, and let's hope that they pull off a decent match. Who do you think wins that ladder match when it does happen?
I gotta think they seem to want to do the Charlotte match, and I think that's where it's going to go. But
I'm fine with that, and it is sad to see our girl Becky not really getting... She was in the sort of the finish of the Money in the Bank match. But I do think... Yeah. I hate to think that Becky's become stale bread for them, because I think she's got an awful lot of potential still.
But I almost think they feel like she's so talented on the mic and in the ring. I think on the mic she's ahead of almost all the other girls on SmackDown. And in the ring she's like top 2 or 3. And they always feel they can go back to it.
Yeah, I guess that's true. Another thing here that we need to talk about, and we're going to change our focus to NXT for a few minutes. NXT has obviously produced some really big stars that are now kind of lighting up both sides of the main roster. But they continue to pump out these stars, and it looks like they have a whole new group of people coming up now that will, I think, very soon be ready for top roster. Aleister Black, Bobby Roode, Roderick Strong. I'm a big fan of Cassius Ohno right now. Ember Moon, Nikki Cross. They look to be some breakout stars for NXT right now. Who do you think is really coming up soon, and who do you think is going to have the biggest impact when they move to the main roster?
The one I want to see have the biggest impact, just because I'm biased because I think he's so talented and probably doesn't need to be in NXT very much longer, is Aleister Black.
Oh, I know. Isn't he amazing?
He's just so good, and they did a match recently with him and Cassius Ohno, and it was just a straight-up stiff fight.
Aleister Black has all the best qualities of guys like The Undertaker and some of the other kind of tough, creepy characters. I love his entrance when they kind of bring him up from like a laying position and he kind of rises up like that. I love his thing where he does the kick and then drops down into the meditation pose before the guy hits the ground. He's awesome. Just awesome.
You don't think they would do an Undertaker rub with him, do you?
But I really hope that they just kind of use him the way he is and kind of develop him. He's got a great look. He's a great talker. I mean, obviously, I think this is stating the obvious, but Asuka is white hot right now. She can't really get any better than she is in NXT right now. Every match she's been in, I've really, really enjoyed. How much longer do they keep Asuka down here? Or do you think maybe they split her across the rosters and have her wrestle the main roster and NXT at the same time?
They could. The only reason I think you might do that is because, to be really, the women's roster is physically deeper than it's ever been on either show. Like, it's not as thin as I thought it was going to be. And I hate to say this, you don't need Asuka unless you want to bring her in and just have her kill everyone, which I'd like to see too. But
I'd love to have them prime the pump a bit with Asuka by having her show up on the main roster, decimate a few people, just so that you're waiting for her, and then eventually move her up. I don't know who beats her for her to move up, though, in NXT.
I think it's going to be Nikki Cross.
I wouldn't mind that at all. Nikki Cross is amazing, and I would love for it to be her. I don't think Ember's ready yet, but yeah, no. I think Nikki Cross is doing a good job. I like Ruby Riott too. She's not at the same level, but she's interesting.
It's an interesting character, but I get the sense they're going to leave her down in NXT for a bit, and I think the idea is Nikki Cross is going to take it from us. They're going to do a third match very soon. They're going to do Last Woman Standing.
Oh, yeah, right.
On TV, so...
That'll be exciting. And you know what?
That'll be a fight, too.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? We're talking about NXT. Let's send our congrats out to Mauro Ranallo. Our boy Mauro is now coming back to NXT, or coming back to WWE, and he's going to be on the announce team for NXT. I am so thrilled. I think that's a great fit.
I think that's a huge fit, and I think there was a lot of politics that went into that.
I imagine.
I tend to believe that Mauro is like Triple H's pick as an announcer, and Triple H does have the majority of control of NXT, and it keeps him away from JBL.
Exactly. That's what you need to do. I'm glad to hear that Mauro's coming up. And I think, who did I hear it was going to be? Mauro, Nigel McGuinness, and Percy Watson. Isn't that the new announce team?
Yeah, that's what it looks like it's going to be, and that'll work.
I mean, I'm not a huge fan of Percy, but for what he contributes, I think he's the right guy. I love Nigel McGuinness, so I think Mauro and Nigel is going to be so much fun.
Oh, yes. Make NXT even more amazing than it already is.
Mauro just is so authoritative, and he brings such a legitimacy to it. I love the idea of him calling NXT. I just love it. I just think it's going to be so good.
Oh, I like him calling anything, but it's this whole thing with the politics of WWE of Vince likes the storytelling, do what I tell you, don't make it sound like a real sport, and then you have other people in WWE trying to change the whole mentality of it, which I think is good.
Yeah, me too. Anyway, congrats to Mauro. I cannot wait to hear him. I don't know how long it's going to be before we do hear him, though.
I've heard as early as next week.
That would be nice.
I've heard as early as next Wednesday, so we'll see what happens if that's right or not. I think because the way they did NXT right now, because Tom Phillips is like traveling all over, I think NXT has actually done commentary through voiceover in a studio, and they do like 1 or 2 live shots.
Okay.
So I don't know how soon Mauro's going to be there. He didn't say anything on the social media post that appeared recently about when he was going to start.
Let's keep our fingers crossed that it's soon. Can't wait to see him. One more item on the news bag, Sean, I got to talk to you about, and this is kind of a big one for me. Enzo and Big Cass have done their big split. And I think we talked about it before. I didn't think it was going to happen this soon. I personally think it's too soon because when you look at it, these two guys worked so well together. And they, as a team, they've never even won a title. They never won any tag titles at all. So do you think, Sean, that this was too soon? Do you think they pulled the trigger on this too early? Especially after all the other stuff I'd heard leading up to it. Yeah, I felt they did. I felt like they had 2 or 3 other plans that might have fallen through. And this was like, okay, we'll just do what we should do anyway. And I don't know where Cass goes, or more so what they do with Enzo. I don't know either. I mean, I think together they worked so well. I feel like that this was just Vince jumping the gun on wanting to get Big Cass out. We've heard he's high on Big Cass. I like Big Cass. I don't think he's that big of a deal, but I'm really glad that he's getting a push. I just feel like that's what's kind of set this in motion. Oh, no, absolutely, because the one benefit to Big Cass among any other 7-footer they've ever had, 2 things. A, he's young, very, and 2, he's healthy. He doesn't have knee or joint issues. He doesn't have any of those things that all those other 7-footers had by the time they got to New York. That's true. So if we're assuming that Big Cass gets a push as sort of a monster heel, I'm kind of wondering if maybe Braun Strowman is set for a face push soon, because I don't think you want too many of these huge guys. No, because I think I think what you do is you probably get, right now, the way it looks, and this is me guessing, I don't know any more than what we've seen on the TV, I'm guessing that you do the ambulance match, which is what's set for Great Balls of Fire. Yeah, Roman and Braun, right? Yeah, in an ambulance match. And I think somehow you managed to execute a face turn for Braun, because Braun will take such a beating that he'll end up being a babyface. And what you're probably setting up program-wise is Roman versus Brock and Cass versus Braun. Well, I think I can see the reasoning behind that. And I know WWE, at least Vince, wants to have those giants in there. So, at first when I thought about this, I thought poor old Enzo is going to get lost in the dust, but I don't think so anymore. Enzo's a great talker, and he's a great character, and that alone, I think, will keep him afloat. Well, and I understand that, but what are you going to, it's this, you didn't make him a manager when you could have. Yeah. Because that's where I feel he's better suited. Not that he's bad in the ring, because he's not. Yeah.
But it's like, you don't want to put him at 205 Live.
No.
In any other Raw situation, he looks like, unfortunately, a very tiny man.
Yeah.
And it doesn't look viable when you have him on the main roster.
I think it wouldn't be bad to make him a Xavier Woods type character, where he's sort of the occasional wrestler, you know.
But you need to put him with somebody, and you just took him away from somebody, and that's the flaw with it.
I don't know where it all lands, but I think he can be a strong personality for them.
No, absolutely. But the other thing that might throw a wrench into things that I have been hearing about over the last couple of weeks is talk that after the last couple of Sunday night special events, they realized that having two rosters for the main roster might be a little thin, and there's talk of eliminating the brand extension.
I've always been up in the air on this anyway, Sean. You know, when they talked about splitting, I didn't like it. When they did split, I didn't hate it. And now they're talking about putting them back together again. I'm fine with that too. I think sometimes we've seen the limitations imposed by the brand split. Sometimes when you just couldn't get the matches that you wanted out of these guys because their perfect opponent was on the other roster.
There's that, and not to mention you have something like Money in the Bank where you have multi-man matches.
Yeah. It
exposes how thin each individual show's roster is when you're doing 5 of your top guys in one match.
Yeah.
You know? Like you're having Breezango do the entire angle with who's beating them up, killing their office, and it's unfortunately the Ascension.
Yeah.
Nothing against them, but it's like that's not really exciting.
No, exactly. What do you think of Breezango? What do you think of the rise of Breezango?
As long as they keep doing the skits, they can do whatever they want. The skits are great.
Good for you. I think they're great too. That's another situation where I feel good for the guys involved, because poor old Tyler looked like he was getting headed down the chopping block soon, and Fandango's been in purgatory forever. It's really nice to see those two guys, both of whom I think are very talented and funny, getting at least the push they're getting. I really feel like if New Day hadn't moved to SmackDown, that Breezango would have been the New Day in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But I know that the original plan going back a year was to have New Day on one show and Enzo and Cass on the other, but now you've split up Enzo and Cass, so I don't really understand what you've done to your planning. So WD seems like they're in a weird spot where they get into something they want long term, and then they get close to it, and then they get cold feet. Also see the Finn Balor, Brock Lesnar tease, because they built it, and then all of a sudden Heyman came out and cut a promo on Finn talking about how small Finn was. And I didn't understand that either, because unless you're going to do something where Finn gets a shot down the road and you really believe that Finn is a star and it only matters if he wins the title at WrestleMania, which you never know.
Well, you know, that leads me actually very well into our next segment, Sean, because I want to open up a discussion to you, and this is something a little more in-depth, and I really need to tap your brain on this. Who do you think really is the next face? Or perhaps if we have to, we can add a couple of guys in here and say the next faces of WWE. Obviously, John Cena was the face of WWE for ages. Cena's kind of phased himself out now. It certainly has looked like it was going to be Roman, although the fans certainly weren't having it. But interestingly enough, Triple H, I read an interview with him recently where he said that he thinks that Seth Rollins is the future of WWE. Well, actually, he said that Seth Rollins was the present and future of WWE. And now Seth, we find, is on the cover of the WWE 2K18 video game, which I'm a fan of those games, and I was surprised that they chose Seth for that. Where do you think that leaves their beleaguered pet project Roman Reigns? And who else fits into the mix as far as being the next face of WWE?
Well, okay, I'm going to make 2 points. I think there's a lot of guys right now that could be the face of WWE, but I also don't know if there's people above in WWE that want there to be a single face of WWE anymore.
I think that's very wise. I think building a series of top guys that are recognizable and represent your company is a far smarter decision.
Well, and it is, but it's also the point of Vince hates when he builds that guy, and then that guy gets too big in the mainstream and does like Hogan did, like Austin did, like Rock did, and like Cena's doing now, finally, after much longer, but Hollywood comes calling.
And Hollywood doesn't hurt your knees the same way.
No.
You know what I mean? Hollywood doesn't leave you with a concussion. And you really have to expect that that's where these guys are going to head eventually, because their bodies simply need that break.
Like, I look at Cena, who did his deal with Nikki Bella at WrestleMania and has been off TV since because he had 2 movies and a TV show lined up.
Yeah.
That WWE agreed to. And understand, Cena's not going to Hollywood to do WWE Films projects. He's going to Hollywood to do the American Grit TV show for Fox. He's going off to do other big movies with big-name Hollywood people. So he's not on WWE television, although he is coming back very shortly.
Yeah, meaning he's not making money for them anymore.
No.
He has now taken the fame he's gotten from WWE, and he's making his own money. And good for him.
Yeah, and that's what I say to that. Good for him, too. But I look at the guys that are near the tippy top of the card now. Here's the interesting thing. If my math is correct, and I'm not completely sure about this, if you look at the top 6 or 7 guys, nobody under 30, very few under 35.
Right.
And they're wrestlers.
Yeah.
There's not this young guy that they built outside of Roman is that guy to me. Roman is that homegrown guy that they really tried to push to be that guy and that face. And I think they finally realized if they take a young homegrown guy, that young homegrown guy leaves in 10 years.
Yeah.
If you take a wrestler who's a little bit older right now, because that's the position you're in, Seth, Owens, Nakamura's 38?
Yeah.
AJ's almost, if not 40, over it. You look at the guys that are on the top now, with the exception of Baron Corbin being the only guy, and I just don't see him having mainstream love at all.
Yeah, me either.
But you got a bunch of guys who are wrestlers, and that's what you need to build on right now if you want to keep your product going. Because as much as we all love WB and wrestling, it's not hot right now. You need to find a way to rebuild people's love for wrestling, and that's what Nakamura and AJ and Seth and Kevin Owens do.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys are interesting characters that deliver in the ring, and that's different than a Hogan, you know?
Yeah.
Different than a Cena, although I shouldn't say that. Cena really did deliver later.
Cena worked his butt off to try and get good.
Yeah.
Cena, unfortunately, is just an uncoordinated guy. You can only teach so much. Like, I respected Cena because Cena cared to work at it.
Yeah.
He understood that he was in WWE and wanted to be there. Cena is just not as coordinated as a list of 10 guys that are athletically so far and above Cena, and that's the other thing, too, is you're getting all these athletes, and you're actually having a little bit of luck building some characters.
Yeah, exactly. So listen, Sean, tell me 3 guys. You got to pick 3.
I got to pick 3?
3 guys that you think will be the faces, or that the next 10 years will be built around.
Ooh, okay. If I got to pick for 10 years, because the 10-year thing makes a difference.
Yeah.
The first 2 I'm going to pick are easy. Assuming everything lines up with their health, I got to pick Seth, and I'm going to pick Finn. Because I think those are the 2 guys. If I have to think about a third guy, and I don't know if he makes the 10 years just based on his age, is probably AJ.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think those are 3, and maybe Owens. See, I would probably pick Owens over AJ, simply because I think Owens has a certain level of lasting power, and he's just a character that rises above anything else that's going on right now.
And to be honest, I think he's younger.
I do think he's younger too. I think
he's the one guy under 35.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I think you're right, Sean. I think you've hit the nail on the head. I don't think they're going to build one guy to be the face anymore. I think they've seen the danger of it, because let's face it, you build your whole company around one guy and he gets hurt or he walks, and you're done. Start building it around a strong stable of stars, and you got a better chance.
Yeah.
You know what we're going to have to do, Sean? On season 10 of the Run-In Show, we'll look back on this and see if we were right.
That's right.
So we only have to wait 10 years.
Oh, only 10 years.
Only 10 years. Well, listen, buddy, we got one more segment we need to throw in here, and since it's the season finale, I think I would have been in a lot of trouble if I didn't take us back to our favorite game show, Kayfabe or Kayfake. Are you ready, buddy?
I am always ready.
We're going to hit you with some of these Kayfabe or Kayfake questions, and just for you people at home, just remember, it's been a while and you may have forgotten, we've lifted the no wagering rule. So feel free to bet the house on it.
Always fun, always fun.
Alright, you ready, buddy?
Yes.
Well, this past WrestleMania, The Undertaker appears to have retired, and he was for so many years the holder of the WrestleMania streak. With The Undertaker now gone, which one of these four competitors would still qualify as holding their own WrestleMania winning streak? Jeff Hardy, Rob Van Dam, Jake the Snake Roberts, or Nikki Bella? One of these wrestlers has an undefeated WrestleMania winning streak.
Okay, there's one I'm eliminating right away, and that's Jake Roberts.
Okay.
Because I know Undertaker beat Jake Roberts.
Okay, so you're down to 3.
I'm down to 3 now.
That would mean Jeff Hardy, Rob Van Dam, or Nikki Bella.
Yeah, and I'm trying to, in my head, go through... Wait, okay, I can also eliminate Jeff Hardy.
Oh, there you go.
Because...
I'm going to help you here.
I know he lost one of the ladder matches involving Edge and Christian, if not multiple of those.
Exactly. I'm going to help you out here, Sean, saying thus far you are correct. So it's not Rob Van Dam or Nikki Bella.
Oh, God. I can't... I don't want to believe that you would stump me with something like Nikki Bella.
Okay.
And I'm going through this in my head as far as RVD is concerned, and I can't find the loss, so I'm going to say it's Rob Van Dam.
Sir, you are correct. That is absolutely correct, Sean. What a way to start there. Rob Van Dam, in fact, does have an undefeated WrestleMania win record, so if RVD comes back, he can start the new streak. I somehow think he's not.
No, I gotta think he's maybe come back for one more or a Hall of Fame, and that's about it. I don't think him back for a runner.
I just think that the wellness violation would get in the way of his...
That's true, yeah. Yeah, I didn't think of that. You're right.
Moving on to question number 2. We're going to keep talking about the wellness violation. Sean, did you know that referee Mike Chioda... Is it Chioda or Chioda?
Chioda
has actually failed the wellness violation. An actual referee. Is that kayfabe or is that K-fake?
It seems so obvious that it could be real. Well, I'm going to say it's K-fake.
It is actually kayfabe.
Really?
Oh, Mike failed the wellness violation. I didn't even know they tested referees.
Like, yeah, why are you testing the referee for?
I don't know. I guess it's widespread. Does that mean that they're
company-wide with a few exceptions?
Are they testing the commentators? Because there's a couple there that I think would probably fail just based on the crap they say.
Well, I know this for a fact that Booker just pays the fine.
Question number 3, Sean. Now, we remember Steve Austin as a crazy, redneck, beer-swilling madman.
Yes.
Did you know that now Steve Austin is actually considered to be a wine connoisseur? Is that kayfabe or is that kayfabe?
Let's see, Austin. I think this is like you're trying to fake me out with some stuff here, because if I remember correctly, I believe he's got a brewery. So I'm gonna say that is kayfabe.
Kayfabe again, my friend. Steve Austin these days is a huge fan. I don't know about the brewery thing, but these days Steve Austin's been very public about the fact that he is a big fan of red wine. In fact, you'll often see him sitting beneath the shade of a palm tree, sipping gently on the offerings of the Napa Valley Red. So is this actually true?
Very good.
This is what I would suspect, though. Even because he is Steve Austin, when he orders wine in a restaurant, he probably gets the waiter to throw it to him, and then he pours some of it on his face before he gets it. I would think so. Catching him out of midair, dumping him all over himself. And red wine stains, so it's just not. It's not that same.
It does. I know this from experience. Yes.
All right. So you've been overthinking these, Sean. You've been thinking I'm tricking you when I'm not.
Yeah, I think so.
So this one's going to be a hard one for you then. Did you know, Sean, that Rey Mysterio once stunt doubled for Freddy Krueger? Is that kayfabe or is that kayfabe? Rey Mysterio, Freddy Krueger.
Let me think about that for a minute. That can't be real. I know Robert Englund wasn't a very big dude, but still, that's got to be fake.
I got you again, bud. That is kayfabe. Rey Mysterio stunt doubled for Robert Englund as Freddy Krueger in 2003's Freddy vs. Jason. Did you see that movie?
Oh my God.
There's a weird dream scene where Freddy's jumping around in a boiler room, flying around off all these pipes, doing all these acrobatics, and that was Rey Mysterio.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. I'm not. I admit I'm not a horror movie guy. I actually can't handle horror movies.
Me either. Not like I used to.
Well, no, I actually never could. It's never been something that I've been able to sit through.
Well, Sean, maybe I knew that and figured I could fake you out with it. Speaking of horror movies, Sean, here's our next question, and this is sort of like a horror movie almost. Really, it's horrifying. Anyway, during a 90s indie match, Sabu accidentally landed on a guardrail so hard that he vomited all over the arm of his opponent, Bam Bam Bigelow. Apparently, Sabu's vomit was so acidic that the vomit actually burned through Bigelow's skin, and the match had to be stopped so that Bam Bam could rinse his arm before continuing. Later, it was found that the reason Sabu's puke was so toxic was because he'd actually punctured his spleen earlier in the match, and he was leaking stomach bile. Is that kayfabe, or is that kayfabe?
That is so gross and disgusting that part of me thinks you made that up, but then there's that part of me that's like, wait, this is Sabu. And we've all seen Sabu matches. I don't know if you've ever had the same pleasure. I had the joy of going with your brother to a couple of live Sabu matches.
I heard.
And again, been put in danger, but that's another story for another time. and it's just the idea that Sabu is so crazy. That could be true, but I'm gonna say you're faking me out.
You're right, my friend, and you caught me on that one. I tried to make it convincing, and I'm sure something very similar has happened because, as you said, he's a complete madman. But that one is fake. So you were correct on that. Now, this last question, Sean, this is kind of, it's a bit off color. I'll warn you right away. The other thing
is it any more off color than the last one?
Oh, it is like miles more off color than the last one. Not only is it off color, but it's kind of it's an intellectual challenge, and it's something that you're going to have to think quick on this, Sean. I know you're a smart guy, but you're going to have to think quick on this unless you got a piece of paper there to work it out. Here's my question, Sean. If you rearrange the letters in Stephanie McMahon's name, it actually spells the Macho Man penis. Kayfabe or kayfake?
Yes, you can actually do that. That is completely true.
Isn't that weird?
That is so weird, and considering that there have been rumors for ages and ages and ages, never to be confirmed by anyone ever, that Macho Man approached a very, very, very young Stephanie McMahon with some innuendo at some point.
Yeah.
It's very ironic to me that you would say that.
You know, it's never been proven, Sean, but the letters don't lie. So
No,
I think we have to consider this some kind of a premonition, or I don't know what it's telling us. It's telling us that it's true, Sean. We have to say it's true, just based on this.
Just based on how you rearrange some letters. do some anagram work. Very good.
That kind of stuff holds up in court, doesn't it?
It may now. You never know. Or it may in the U.S.
Oh, God. Let's not even get into it.
No. I'll have to go back into the bunker again. I want to do that.
Exactly. Get the elevator ready. Sean's coming back down.
Yeah.
Anyway, buddy, thanks for all the fun. I'm so glad we got to get back on the air. And for those of you who've joined us, thank you so much for sticking with us. We're going to take a break over the summer, and we're going to come back with a brand new season of the Run-In Show in the fall. We'll have lots to talk about, I'm sure, by the time we get there, Sean.
Well, there's a couple of big teases I know coming that we'll have to talk about by then. WWE will make their annual trip to Brooklyn in August is coming up for their 3-day trip into Brooklyn. There's the all-women's tournament that will have started by then. The Mae Young Classic will have started by that point, so that's something.
Some interesting names in that, too. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I'm interested to see, and this is me looking at it from strictly a television point of view, who's going to be the announcer. I've heard Jim Ross's name as the play-by-play guy, but I don't know who's going to be the color man for that, so it'll be fun.
You know what? I hope that they put Renee Young on the commentary team at some point, because it really would be nice to actually have a woman on the commentary team.
Well, and I agree with that. I know she did. If you go back and watch early NXT before the network started,
yeah,
like not when it was the reality show, but when they rebranded it as a separate wrestling product.
Yeah,
Renee Young did do play-by-play.
You can hear Renee in some of the archived matches that they've put on some of their best of. You can hear Renee on there, and I think she did a fine job. So I would give her the vote.
Well, that we would like to always do things to favor Dean Ambrose.
Exactly. Good old Dina. Anyway, folks, we're going to get out of here, and I just want you to remember that as we head into our summer, if you ever feel like you're missing the Run-In Show, just imagine Sean and I perhaps enjoying a picnic under the shade of a maple tree, or perhaps floating down a lazy river on inner tubes, splashing each other and having fun, because that's how we're spending our summer.
Yeah, for sure.
Building sandcastles, all that stuff. Anyway, take care, my friend. I hope you have a great summer, and I'm sure I will be speaking to you throughout.
Yes.
And to everybody at home, have a wonderful summer, and we will see you in the fall.
The Run-In Show has been recorded in front of a live, simulated audience. Music by Audionautics.com. This has been a Rush Donahue production.